know when I've officially gone live, because I feel like I've just pushed the button and we should be kind of live or live adjacent. How are we doing? Okay. Oh, nice. Right. That's a very, very interesting question. I don't know. Guys, we're doing a slightly different setup to usual, because usually if, for a start, hello, if this is live, doing a slightly different setup because we are shifting some stuff around in the house. So I'm in my office and Yvonne is in another room. We're talking over Discord so that she can read your comments out to me. So just let me know if you can hear her. What was that, sorry? Oh. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. So yeah, just let me know if you can hear Yvonne or not, because Yvonne just say some random stuff to me. Okay, so she's speaking. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. I think we're good. Yeah, just let me know if you can hear Yvonne or not. In fact, if you can hear me. And we can get started. Myrtle's ringing that bell right now, just as soon as we go live. Myrtle's ringing the bathroom bell. We trained Myrtle to ring a bell every time she needs the bathroom, but she's also figured out that it means come and see me. So if for some reason she's in a room and doesn't want to follow us but wants us to come to her, she will now ring the bell, because it's like, oh, I could be about to go to the bathroom on the floor, so better come and see me pretty urgently. So we tried to train the dog and she's trained us. It's not ideal. So yeah, hope you guys are doing well today. I can only hear you through the rooms, not through the microphone or anything. Can't hear a word, sadly. Oh, okay. Looks like we are kind of ready to go. Hey, now I can hear you. Right, okay, yes, there we go, cool. I'll let you know if you cut out again. It might just be Wi-Fi stuff, because we're both doing stuff. Oh, that's pretty bizarre. Have you muted me? Maybe? Why am I asking you questions when you just said that you can't hear me? Can you hear anything through this? No. We can sort it out. I'll just disconnect. There you go. I just disconnected and reconnected on Discord, so hopefully that's done something. I can hear you quite well. There we go. Yeah, we might need to just do that from time to time. Well, I've gone again. Good grief. Like, our internet's fine. It's just we're really bad at technology. So, sorry guys. Do you know if people can hear and see yet? This is super professional. If you can see what I'm saying, then hear what I'm saying, then I apologise. Yvonne, do you know if people can see and hear and stuff? Okay. Cool. So Yvonne is just setting up in another room where hopefully she's going to get a bit more signal. And we can carry on from there. Let me just check if I can... we can hear and see. Cool. Right. I'm just going to go with that. Okay, so let's just get started, guys, because this is already a bit of a faff. So, hello and welcome back to the Arcane Forge. It's been a little while since you guys have seen or heard from me. I've taken a bit of time off, and I am kind of diligently working on Monster Mondays. My patrons have voted for an absolute ton of monsters, some of which I had wanted to do in the past, some of which were sort of still scheduled to occur. My plan at the moment is to research and get those videos kind of made up before I start posting them. So in the meantime, I'm going to be doing a lot more of this kind of stuff, live streams to kind of tide you guys over while I make that content. And hopefully once I've made like a little backlog of stuff and I can start releasing things periodically, I can start working on some of the other videos that I used to do as well, that you guys have been requesting. So a lot more sort of magic item workshops like this, but with existing magic items and things with a lot of research gone into them rather than creating them from scratch right now, and other videos that you guys have requested, and just things that I've wanted to do for ages but haven't had the time to because I've been kind of catching up with Monster Mondays. So today, what we're going to do in the first of a few live streams, we're going to be making a magic item. So just like with Monster Mondays, this is a video where I'll draw a magic item and we can kind of come up with the stats and what it does together. Now on Instagram, I asked you guys what kind of thing should we draw, and I specifically said that we should not draw a weapon because I don't know about you, but I feel like whenever I am like doling out magic items or I'm receiving magic items as a player, they overwhelmingly seem to be weapons, and increasingly, I say increasingly, in general, I enjoy the non-combat side of D&D an awful lot. The combat works flawlessly. It's a game built around combat. So the kind of exciting, interesting no man's land of D&D is the non-combat stuff, and I wanted to make some things based around that. Maybe things with combat applications if they needed to have them, but otherwise it would just be an interesting way to augment the way that you play. You guys sent me lots of suggestions, and I liked an awful lot of them. There are lots of interesting magic items that I've used in the past, but there's a lot of them that are super quick to draw, and I think for a kind of long form video like this, it's going to be like an hour or two, a very simple thing to draw, kind of drawing that out over a long period of time is going to be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to go for a slightly more complex thing to draw, and we can kind of come up with the stats and how it would work. So what we're going to be drawing today is what I call the quadropod pack, which is something that I kind of loosely came up with for a sci-fi adventure that I'd come up with. And, if you've seen the old Spider-Man films, or if you've read some Spider-Man comics and things like that, and you know who Dr. Octopus is, then that's the kind of thing that we're dealing here. It's a gnomish invention that allows the user to have 4 mechanical arms that sort of scale in size, and they kind of have a choice to make between whether or not they want to run around on their 2 feet and have 4 quite strong arms that are all independent and can be used to do various things, or if they want to walk around on these 4 long arms and use their other limbs, their sort of organic limbs, as their kind of more digital, intricate sort of things. So yeah, basically I'm going to get cracking with drawing some of this stuff. Yvonne's going to look through your comments and send me your questions and some of your ideas and things like that, and then we can kind of come up with stats as we go. And basically she's going to be writing down some of this stuff as I kind of pick and choose what I think makes the most sense for how this thing would operate and not be crazy overpowered, because who likes overpowered stuff? And then I will stick it through the DM, what do you call it, the home brewery, and then I will stick it up on the website so you guys can actually use this when we're done with it. So hopefully only an hour or so after we've finished the live stream, you guys might be able to use this kind of thing if we come up with it all neat and tidy. So I'm going to start off by drawing a little gnome who created this device, perhaps. I can. Yvonne is trying to speak to me, but her Discord is not working, so I can hear her through the walls though, so I can hear roughly what she's trying to say. How are you guys doing this week? How's lockdown treating you? Are you staying sane? Hello, how you doing?
I've just come through and
Yeah.
sit in here. I realise it might sound weird, but there's not you're answering questions for people hearing the questions.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That is very fair. So I don't like the curved eyebrows for that. I think I'll get rid of those bad boys. I do like an eyebrow on a gnome.
Colby Monroe's got quite a good question for you.
Yeah?
Said one of my players recently paid quite a lot of gold to get his brother's hand, who was slain by his hand, to turn into a mummified magic item, and said, "I don't know, surprise me," when I asked what it would do.
Oh my god.
So I got to figure that out now. So if you have any suggestions for that.
So the brother was killed by the guy who now possesses the hand, is that right?
Sounds like it.
I mean, strangle him is probably what I imagine it would do. If there's any...
I think maybe like some magical properties or something.
Yeah.
Something you can think.
I mean, using it like Mage Hand, having it kind of crawl around on the ground and stuff, seems like a good call. I wonder if you could use it to kind of... I don't know. All I can think of is Cousin-It. Is it Cousin-It or is it Thing?
The thing is
The thing, yeah.
Thing is the hand.
Yeah.
That's quite cool. It's like Mage Hand, but not invisible.
Yeah, like a permanent mage hand that's like a pet, as it were. Yeah, actually, why not? I would just do that. But you have to do some kind of ritual. You have to do something every morning or once a day, you know. Otherwise, the hand will try and like assassinate the person using it, basically. So it's like having a free familiar who can actually do stuff, but they have to appease it somehow.
Maybe the brother that's still living has to be in pain or cause himself pain or upset to
Oh god.
get it to work. Is that too dark?
That is pretty dark. But
right. Joe has joined us. Hello.
Nice to see you, Joe.
Alright, home slices. DM Interest says, what are we making? So if you want to just recap.
So yeah, we are making what I call the quadropod pack, which is a kind of four-limbed gnomish backpack that allows the wielder to either walk around on these kind of four metallic octopus limbs, a bit like Dr. Octopus, or they can use the limbs as limbs, which are quite strong. So we're going to be coming up with stats for these things as I draw them, and everyone's going to kind of type them up, and we'll stick them on my website when we're done.
Swiggy has some good suggestions for the hand. Actually, you could give it 5 charges of Bestow Curse, 1 for each finger.
Oh, that's a good
Colby
idea.
says the brother's hand has a demonic symbol of gluttony on it, if that helps.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, yeah, like maybe it only follows his commands if he does things that the brother would have wanted. So like making sure that if he is extremely gluttonous, like that is living the life that he's robbed his brother of, if that makes sense.
Your Herc is questioning your sanity, that you were drawing the gnome.
Yes, don't worry.
I'm quite surprised at, actually. Why are you drawing the gnome in particular?
Because I feel like gnomish tinkering seems like a thing only a gnome would make a kind of Dr. Octopus backpack, I feel, because they're quite mad, and also, I don't know, I feel like I spent a lot of time thinking about all the races in my campaign, and I allowed gnomes, but I wanted to kind of figure out how they might dress and what they might look like and things like that. So drawing a gnome right now is helping me kind of visualize how gnomes might look or dress or behave in my campaign currently. So yeah.
Apocalyptic Moth said, I love the clockworks from Mordenkain's Tome of Foes.
Yeah, they're very, very cool.
They really underline what it means to be a rock gnome.
Oh, that's a nice statement. Yeah, I like all the kind of tinkering type stuff. As you know I'm obsessed with tinkering and all that kind of business.
Diamanter says, is this the Glocktopus joke remake?
It is not going to be the Glocktopus, sadly. I think that was a TikTok, is it? That was trying to just wanting someone to draw an octopus with a Glock in each arm.
Colby says, I feel like a dwarf might make a cool climbing steampunk backpack also.
That seems like a good call.
For mining purposes.
Yeah, that seems very functional, whereas in my head I was thinking very mad scientist. So, maybe that's something for another time. There's no reason why several species could not be using these wonderful inventions when we're all done. Hello, Myrtle, snoring away in the background.
Camus says hello. So
hello, how you doing?
Thanks for doing it.
I hope you've had a wonderful week.
Airy Fail says Ari?
A-R-I? Is it Ari?
A-R-I-E.
Oh.
Airy or Ari? You can let us know. I have a lot of fun thinking about magical items, like a broom with a lance on the front, just something special for a witch. A still defender in the shape of a colossus crab that doubles as an anvil. Apocalyptic Moth says, may I recommend the Glocktopus as a future Monster Monday?
Only if you want Glocks in your campaign world, man, because that's how you get. Like, if you introduce an octopus with guns, you're gonna have to deal with your players shooting, stealing guns off of an octopus, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say, and then shooting all your.
That's quite nice thought, actually. Matt Lynn says, so to gnomes, magic is merely electricity.
Yeah, totally.
So kind of commonplace for them.
Yeah, that's kind of how my kind of steampunky setting works. Like Magitech is that level of common, and everyone has access to some level of it. Whether they know how it works or not is a totally different story, but they have some of it.
So Joe, who's part of our gaming group, has made a good suggestion for the gluttony severed hand. He says, monkey's paw that only casts twisted forms of create food and water recharges every time the bearer eats to a point of gaining a point of exhaustion.
Oh. that Myrtle snoring away that I'm hearing?
Yeah, Myrtle's wearing a cone, but she's scratching her ears and she's very unhappy about it. So you hear a constant groaning sound. And
Oh, poor Mert.
York is asking, when can we expect your return? I am still waiting on that Eton.
Yeah, so I am doing. I was kind of saying this beforehand that I'm working on the Monster Mondays that everyone suggested, or well, not everyone suggested. The to-do list is absolutely enormous, but I gave my patrons a lot of Monster Mondays to kind of vote on, like which ones they would like to see, which ended up being, I think it was like 9 Monster Mondays they voted for in total. And I am researching all of those at the moment, and then I'm gonna sort of draw them and record them and do all the prep to kind of have a nice batch of videos ready to go that I can release when I'm ready. When that's done, basically, I'm going to be doing live streams in the meantime, so you guys aren't entirely starved of Arcane Forge content. But yeah, it should be a couple of weeks until the next Monster Monday's up, I reckon. So yeah, not too long to wait, but I want to have a nice kind of backlog so I can work on other types of videos without necessarily having to only focus on Monster Mondays.
We're getting like additional octopus gun hybrid puns here from Joe, who says that you didn't want him to play a flint-locked-pus. Flint-locked-pus.
I don't think it ever came up, but yeah, I mean, I would be nervous of you playing a flint ploctopus, Joe. Yeah, that would be horrifying.
Flint ploctopus. That sounds quite hard to say.
Yeah.
Bolt says thoughts on the new Theros.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to taking a look at it. Is it officially out now, or is it soon to come out? I definitely want to take a look, basically, because I love Greek mythology, and I would love to tie some more things like that into my campaign.
DM Entry says new construct for the Gloctopus. Either would be the ink spray or the gunpowder. The last thing you see is going to be black either way. I like the idea of building the ink into the attack, actually, if you do eventually make a Gloctopus.
Yeah, I like the sound of this. What am I doing? Oh yeah.
Yeah, instead of ammunition, it shoots ink that blinds or burns.
Interesting. I like the sound of it.
Yeah, the book's out. It's out on D&D Beyond. As a digital format. Book will be out later.
Nice. I tend to only go for physical books, just because I like to collect things, and I like having this physical set of notes that I can read through. So I'll probably wait until they are physical, and then I'll pick it up then. But yes, I'm extremely excited about about Theros, though.
Dick Squiggy is ahead of you. He's saying it's out and he's preparing to run the module from the book for his group.
Nice. Let me know how it goes. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Ari says, what do people think about a robotic toad's backpack? The pouch of holding in its mouth. A long mechanical tongue capable of retrieving items, sort of Ratchet and Clank. That's cool.
That's a really nice idea.
The tongue just flipping out and grabbing what you wanted.
Yeah, that's really cute. I like this plan.
Joe says no, not ink that burns. We're back to liquid sugar, which is relating to a bad incident in our view.
A bad incident that you're embarrassed of, but
Colby says both of the new races have 35 move speed, so that's unique, but otherwise it's quite boring.
Alright, what are the new species?
Yeah, you could let us know what they are.
Yeah.
What about magnetic underwear from gnomes? so that they never fall from the horse and they can hold a shield with these metallic boxers.
Oh my god.
You know, if you had sort of magnetic pants, you could like attach all your tools around your waist with a tool belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is extremely practical if you think about it.
Very practical. That's the first thing I would have thought of when you say that. Dear, oh dear.
Is anyone else picturing the metal pants from Robin Hood's Men in Tights now?
I was picturing like Wallace and Gromit, weirdly, like the spare trousers. But was it like? It wasn't the spare trousers. Is it the spare trousers? I can't remember.
No, sounds right. Okay, so the physical copies of Theros. Is that how you say it?
Theros? I don't know.
Theros is out on the 21st of July. So
okay, cool.
Another month and a bit to wait.
Not too long. Not too long at all.
Apocalyptic Moth says, in my world, Ettins were once hill giants that betrayed giants by giving battle plans to the dragons in their war in exchange for food.
Yeah.
Their god cursed them to continue to argue with the other head. Oh, right. So
That's
they're
really
the
nice
double-headed giant.
Yeah, Ettins are two-headed giants.
Oh, my goodness. Right.
That's really cool.
Okay, now I can see why Yark's interested. Another form of giant.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've done the research for them, so they are ready to go. I'm ready to start drawing Ettins, basically.
And talking of York, he says, still working on that oath for the fire giant He-Man sword. I'm sort of halfway. Cool.
Nice one.
The new races are lion people and satyrs.
Oh, satyrs. Right, okay. I find it weird that we have like the Tabaxi and lion people, because I've kind of always played the Tabaxi as lion people, but you know, like I suppose they are like quite skinny looking in the illustration. Just seems a little bit weird that you'd need both. But maybe there's a lot of great lore involved in them, and they're very, very different. Who knows?
Oh, this is cute. The concept of a toolbox that is a tiny mechanical flying beetle ready to provide you with easy tool access.
Oh, that's very cute.
Adorable. It'd be like nice for a little sewing kit with a little bug. Ladybird crawling about.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. That's approved.
The wrong trousers, thank you, Joe.
The wrong trousers, thank you very much, yeah.
So, do you know anything about the Leonin, the lion race? How are they different to Tabaxi?
I have absolutely no idea, yeah. I had assumed that they had consolidated things into the Tabaxi, but I guess not.
Where's our dog people race?
Yeah, totally. I have
Dungeons and Dogs or something.
Yeah, we do have Dungeons and Dogs to allow people to play awoken animals, and we have like I think it's caverns and cats or something. Either way, the cat version as well is also there, and yeah, they're dead cute. So I allow that kind of stuff, but.
Okay, this is cool, right. So if this gnome has a Dr. Octopus kind of suit, what about this guy starting a cult to praise krakens and promising their followers that they can turn into krakens themselves? Ooh. The cult of squishy limbs.
Is that Joe? Has Joe suggested that? Because I feel like that's a Joe thing.
No, that's DM Interest. So many cool ideas.
Nice.
The Tabaxi are a D&D race. Well, the Leonin are a race from the Magic the Gathering universe. Okay, different mechanics. Okay.
So Theros is a Magic the Gathering thing like Ravnica kind of thing.
Oh, okay. And Colby says from what they've heard, when they've voiced the same complaint, is Leonin are strong cats and Tabaxi are quick cats.
Oh, well. Yeah, fair dues.
Okay.
I suppose you could use like stats for the Leonin to make like lycanthrope people if you wanted to make kind of like werewolfy type people, I guess. Maybe. You know.
Oh, I like this. Goop says, in my world, Ettins come from two orcish brothers who never got along. Their father begged the gods to find some way for the two to live with themselves. They took it very Literally.
I like that a lot. That's very good. Very, very good.
Ari says, how about exploding daggers? Big thick kunai with a pineapple grenade house in the middle.
Ooh.
Hex shrapnel that does prolonged curse damage.
That sounds very cool.
I'm just like pineapple grenades. Is that
I feel like you're about to look up something really unfortunate, but
oh really?
No, as in like depressing, like the.
I don't know. I'm like picturing a grenade like shaped like a pineapple. Cause they kind of have the body already with the texture.
Yeah, I can see that.
Needs a little sort of fancy crown. Let's see. Swiggy says, I actually let one of my players play an awakened house cat a long time ago.
Nice. Yeah, I was up for my players doing that kind of thing. None of them went for it, which is, I suppose, good because
we've already
we've got a lot of
possum and a squirrel, and we almost had a cat actually. It's backseat.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of animal going on.
Yes, we've got plenty of animal, so no need for more, I don't think. Right, what am I thinking of for the sketch here? Because there's something specific in my head and I can't think what it is.
Joe says, I feel like DM Enterez would have my back with so many Joe things. I'm here for your ideas. Yeah,
yes,
I think
yeah, definitely.
it could be a powerful combination of minds.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
No.
so can we give this suit the property of protection against burning oil, burning alcohol and salt, like evading the fry pan kind of octopus?
Okay, that's pretty cool. Like the tools themselves being resistant to becoming calamari.
Apocalyptic Moss says that they listen while they're painting their minis.
Oh, nice. That's very cool. I've been doing a lot of mini painting myself. I'm looking forward to doing quite a lot more. Hopefully that's what I'm going to do this weekend as well, actually, which will be very nice. It's nice and relaxing. I tend to go on the Patreon Discord and angle my camera so that my patrons can see what I'm painting if I'm doing that kind of thing, and then see if anyone turns up while I'm doing that, which is quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the Patreon thing, then come and join me over the weekend, and we can paint minis together. Have a little society of paintbrushes.
Yorick says, how many armies could you make out of your to draw list at this point? Which must be insane.
Oh yeah, it's like it's several hundred already. In terms of just not even specific creatures. That's me narrowing it down into like large open-ended things. But I go with whatever is most popular. So like when people vote for like whatever creature, like the most votes it gets, the number of times it comes up is how.
Yeah, Josh literally like marks down everything that's suggested.
Yeah.
Where I was like, man, you've got like enough to do like 2 years.
Yeah, but
videos, so you don't need to keep writing them, but you're like committed to doing that.
Yeah, it's fun, and I mean as well.
I'm more of a take shortcuts kind of person.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how weird is it going to be when like enough people request that one really niche thing, whatever it is, and then it finally comes up, you know, and then I get to say this guy voted for this thing like 5 years ago.
Ace has quite a dystopian sounding idea here.
Oh god.
If anything, I'd like to see a D&D verse book based on the Mirrodin, a plane of nothing but mechs, illusion and duplication, and the ideology of perfection, which sounds like an utter nightmare.
Yeah, that level of stress, like everything has to be perfect. So it's illusion and perfection is the nature of that realm. Is that correct? Is that another Magic the Gathering realm?
We'll see in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan on having the arms as a sentient item? If so, that could open up the possibilities of it doing its own thing separate of its creator.
I don't think so. I want this to be a tool. So that the concept of this idea is that this is a device that gnomes would use to either be at the same height and, you know, use the same apparatus as humans and things, or to just simply have enough limbs. So this is going to be the kind of like, this is a tool for them to use that a very advanced society would find super useful. So I want it to be one of those things that's like, I don't know, like something that you'd use in chemistry to kind of avoid touching the chemicals yourself, kind of thing, like tongs or something like that. But they're such an advanced society that they have automated limbs, basically. So I don't want it to have its own personality. I feel like that would detract away from like what it's designed for. But you could certainly get like a cursed one that has like its own sentience or something like that. And I know in one of our campaigns we had an artificer whose backpack had some limbs, and that was cursed because it was given sentience by a devil, and he put the wielder's father's soul inside it. So the artificer had a real bind on his hands, in that this thing was really, really useful, and it was a way for him to connect to his now passed away father, but it was his now passed away father, so it's immensely screwed up. Thanks, Joe, for that one.
Yorick says, how do you handle Goliaths in your world?
So I have a species called the Caladore in my campaign. They are Fantasy Scotland, and they are kind of giants. They have this oath that they take when they're, well, a ritual that they perform when they're very, very young. And it's their kind of coming of age ceremony that covers them in tattoos magically. And what this ceremony does is that it determines what their, it's like a divination spell that determines what they would be the best at in life. And it brands them forever with that kind of mark. And the Caladore basically then spend the rest of their entire life training in only that field. So if you are, you know, I'm drawing right now, but if a Caladore came to adulthood and they took this ritual, and the ritual told them that they would be best suited as an artist, they would never learn maths, they would never learn like the sword, they would never learn anything else but to draw, because there's no point, you're going to be brilliant at this one thing, why would you train in anything else? So they are the apex in each of their individual fields. However, they don't value people practicing other things. They don't value anyone who tries to be a jack of all trades, or, you know, in many cases multi-classing. And this means like they're really, really good warriors. So no one who ever turns up on the shores of Caladoria, the place where they live, ever manages to leave if they have hostility in their hearts, because the warriors who are guarding the shores have been trained as warriors their whole lives. It's all they've ever known, it's all they will ever know. So you're very unlikely to survive an encounter with them. And this means that people perceive them as barbarians, as savage and so on, but that's simply because they never get past the guards to find out what the rest of their society is like. This kind of very, very strict and lawful kind of land, basically. And so most adventurers you kind of meet, or, you know, most players you kind of meet, are people who have abandoned this oath and have been outcast by their society because they want to go and see the rest of the world. They want to do some things that have not been defined from when they were born, basically. But yeah, I really like them. I think they're a fun type of character. I actually have one person in our campaign who's playing one of those right now, which is really interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they get up to, basically. But yeah, I like the Goliaths. I think they're really, really useful. But I don't like the idea of them just being like a dumb race, you know, like a strong dumb. That kind of character is really fun to play. Totally, totally fun to play. But I don't like kind of generalizing a whole species to be that kind of thing. So if they can be like, maybe that's what you see very often, but and their kind of specialism from birth might indicate that kind of thing. But if they could, if you could see the rest of their society, they might be really strong at mental tasks as well.
Colby says that's similar to how he works with Dragonborn in his campaign.
Oh, that's cool.
Each Dragonborn was born as a human and made to be a dragon.
Ooh.
Dragonborn is a gift by a true dragon, usually for excellent military service.
Nice.
York says, what is the relationship between Goliaths and orcs?
So I have no relation between Goliaths and orcs in my campaign setting. They live in, they primarily live in two very, very different lands. So they wouldn't see too many of each other, and I don't think the Caledori would respect an orc particularly well. Orcs are quite savage and brutal and very impulse driven, and the Goliaths, the Caledori in my campaign at least, are extremely not driven by impulse and would value like the craft of combat over brutality.
The group says if the suit that you're, what are we calling this? A suit?
The quadropod pack, yeah, is
He's saying if it's designed for dealing with dangerous substances, perhaps it could create small bubble shields around the tongs for when dealing with chemicals and explosives.
That's a really good idea, yeah. That's a very, very nice plan. Could definitely be like a kind of force field generator thing. I like the idea of it being it could be used offensively, because I see it as being quite strong. Because this is for, maybe like something between like a set of tongs and a forklift, like a mobile kind of forklift type thing. So I see this as something like extremely useful for players.
Bolt has looked up powered armour from the Lost Laboratory of Koalish.
Oh yeah.
And it's basically like Iron Man's armour. Has a personality module in it when you first encounter it, and you have to fight it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so maybe like this is something that a player would have to have a battle of the minds. Actually, that does suit a gnome quite well. If this is a gnomish invention, then maybe you'd have to prove that you're intelligent enough to wield it, and then it would submit to you, I guess. Seems like quite an interesting concept.
Colby says, what's the relationship between Caledori and Calamari?
They really just love it. They named their whole society after that one food. They're all there using quadropod packs to catch squid.
Steve says that his guys are a bit like yours. Everyone thinks that they're savage because they only ever see that they're warriors.
Yeah, it's the most public part of their life, because they're quite secretive and secular. So
York says, do you like he does think that the orcs from the World of Warcraft are the definitive interpretation of the orc?
I really like orcs in World of Warcraft. I think they are a really interesting take on an orc. I really love the idea of the kind of savagery and brutality of an orc being a misinterpretation of what they are, and that they actually are very soulful and connected to nature, and that a kind of human-like civilization would that's into all of its kind of rules and boundaries and politics would see that as quite savage and project onto them the kind of like brutality and savagery that we kind of know of orcs. So yeah, I really, really love that. At the same time though, I love a good Warhammer orc as well, that are just big dum-dums that are horrific monsters. So I really jump back and forth between the two. I'm not very decisive. Well, I could just stop the sentence there. Actually, I'm not very decisive, but I'm definitely not. Yeah, I'm so indecisive. I don't know how to finish a sentence. Done. The end. We can all go home.
I'm just wondering if this, because I see a lot of the comments and stuff that you get from people. I am wondering if this is a good place for you to talk about your campaign that you've just started.
Yeah.
And maybe give a bit background on that.
Yeah, of course.
I would quite like to hear that.
Yeah.
Let me know in the comments comments if I'm wrong about that. But.
Yeah, sure. So we're actually recording the campaign for people to listen to, and I've said this to a few people, but it's going to be I like a lot of atmosphere in my campaign, so we use a lot of music and we use a lot of copyright music. So I'm only going to publish it on Patreon because it'll get taken down on YouTube. So you'll be able to listen along to our adventures through Patreon if you are a patron. We just started a new one. How many sessions? We had 3 sessions now. 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really nice thing.
Joe's worried about spoilers. I think you can keep it spoiler free.
Don't worry, I'll keep it spoiler free. Basically, I have a real problem as a DM with writing really big, sort of like enormous stories that are, world-ending threats and all this kind of stuff. And they're not really the things that I like to read, and they're definitely not the kind of games that I end up playing. Like, sometimes they are, like Mass Effect. I love Mass Effect and stuff. Has a kind of like, global, galaxy-wide threat and all this kind of stuff. But actually that's a better way of saying it, what I've always wanted to write, and the games that I'm most excited about playing, although I love all sorts of different stories, are the kind of Sherlock Holmes kind of mystery and adventure, small scale, brutal, gritty crime stories and all this kind of stuff. And for me, the absolute apex of mixing the kind of fantasy stuff that I love and that kind of attitude was playing through and reading the Witcher books. So I've always wanted to kind of capture the feeling of, we have a kind of stereotypical D&D low-level adventure thing to accomplish, and we're going to find clues, and we're going to talk to people and hear rumours that might be conflicting, and we're going to figure out the truth for ourselves about what we reckon the issue is that we're being told to sort out. And we could see that threat entirely at face value and just kind of deal with the threat we've been asked to face, or we could plumb a little bit deeper into whatever the story is and see if people are telling us the truth, or if there's more at stake here, if there's more interesting stuff. So basically I've set a kind of street level adventure campaign, and no matter what level my players get to, I kind of plan on keeping it fairly street level as much as possible. We're playing in one capital city. Last time I used my campaign setting, we went to a lot of different nations across the world because I've kind of planned all those out. And although I want them to have some kind of influence on this campaign world, I really want us to stay basically in this one city for the whole adventure. So my adventurers are licensed adventurers. They are working as part of the Adventurers Society, which affords them a little bit of mobility, social mobility, and freedom in terms of. Hang on, I just need to erase that. A little bit of. Why can I undo eraser? What's going on? There we go. Afford them a little bit of social mobility, basically, because the campaign setting that I've written is kind of one at war. So a big incentive for becoming an adventurer might be joining the society, so that you can no longer, you can live wherever you like, basically, and you won't get kicked out just for being the species that you are. But it's a heavily prejudiced one, and it's kind of interesting to kind of challenge those kind of thoughts and ideas in a fantasy setting. So I'm kind of looking forward to keeping everything street level and just having everything kind of be a little bit grim and dark and comedic, but ultimately, despite the kind of species that you can play, an ultimately human story, if that makes sense, like a kind of a story that is on a human level, something that we can recognise in our day-to-day lives with fantasy elements. So
Ace asks, are you more of an impromptu DM or one who really plans lots of interactions in the game?
I tend to do quite a lot of planning, but I like to be surprised by my players if they find a means.
Thank goodness you are.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had a campaign go exactly how I've planned, basically. But yeah, I like to plan things. Interestingly, the other day I did this thing. So I'll see if I can send a link to it on Instagram or something like that. But I found online on Reddit somewhere that there was this little questionnaire that asked players what they enjoyed actually playing, and like we can ask our players, but it's so easy for players to be kind, and just kind of say like, oh yeah, we enjoy whatever you want to write and all this kind of stuff, which is wonderful. But if you really want to write something for your players, then it's good to know what they actually enjoy playing, right? So I found this questionnaire, and it asked my players a series of questions to determine what they actually enjoyed doing. And although they didn't seek out railroading, it basically told me from their responses that more often than not they would like fewer choices and more of a well-written story, if that makes sense. So they like having choices, within a narrative, but they would prefer the narrative to be well structured, and have kind of like acts and things like that, have an actual story that they are being walked through, rather than a story that they are creating themselves. They want to have their own influence on a story that I am writing, if that makes sense. So that's actually been a really great thing for me to know, because it means I feel less guilt about things that I feel are a bit railroady. And I wonder if that's the same for other DMs and their players, if they find that their players kind of feel the same way.
Steve Harrison says, sadly my players tend to ignore intrigue and mystery, even though I try to thread it into the game.
Mm-hmm.
To find amusing little side ventures, they still think of the game as on rails.
It's unfortunate that I'm intrigued to see how my players do with my next adventure, basically with them, because they're currently going through a kind of trial dungeon to prove if they're good enough adventurers and what have you, and kind of get a bit of publicity and notoriety for themselves, so that people will come to them as kind of like what do you call it, like a private investigator almost.
Steve says, number of intriguing side quests I've been able to deploy so far is 0. Well, at least I've got stuff written that they haven't seen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's nothing.
Apocalyptic Moth says, how do you introduce plot hooks to your games? I always find it odd when a bartender walks up to a group of people on the street and asks them if they would like to kill all the rats in his basement.
Yeah, I think that's that kind of thing is fine. In this particular adventure, I've set up the idea that it's good to set constraints for your players, basically. So I have told my players that the campaign that we're playing is one in which, for whatever reason they choose, they have applied to become employed as adventurers, right? So they know, their characters know full well that they will be performing the service of adventuring, which operates like a private investigator thing. So people will come to them, and it's their job to make sure that they do enough of a good job that more people come to them so they can pay their rent, basically. And that kind of makes it quite easy to have people come to them and say, hey, can you do us a favor? Can you come and help me, getting rid of rats in my basement or whatever? But it's good to kind of make sure that as well, when your players make their characters, don't let them finish character creation without letting them have a motivation. Like what do they want? What is that? Why does their character want to be an adventurer? What do they want to do with their lives? If you want to have the kind of adventure where players are making decisions and coming up with ideas, and you want to have a more organic story, don't let them go like, oh, I'm just making a half-elf barbarian, you know? It's okay, cool, and what does your half-elf barbarian want to do? Why are they trying to be an adventurer? What are they interested in? Why did they leave their family home? Why, you know, what's their motivation? What are they doing in the meantime? Why they're being distracted by an adventure from their real goal? What is that goal, kind of thing? They need to be an adventurer to earn money so that they can save up to find out who stole their dog, you know, that kind of thing. That it's up to the players to give you that little nugget of what would motivate this player to take this mission or to do X, Y, and Z. What excites them, what interests them. If they don't do that, then I don't think them. If they would, I've never had this, but if they would complain about, you know, the whole a guy comes up to me with a bunch of rats in his basement, if they complain about that, then it's kind of tough, you know. You should have told me that your character wants something or is interested in anything. But if they do have interests, then it's a good idea to play on those as much as possible. So, for example, if like simple as can be, they just want to earn as much money as possible. They are the greediest capitalists you can conceive of. So
Not
just
looking at anyone in particular.
yeah, my Yvonne is playing a Karga Warforged called Bob, who is basically like Bender from Futurama, is like just ultra greedy. But like, yeah, that's the way you motivate them. Just like you can get them to do anything as long as it's some kind of money on the line, you know.
Matt says, I prefer being railroaded into a good story with a bit of wiggle room for a player agency, but not an open sandbox with no purpose, which is kind of where I am.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, Colby says, as a player, I like to have clear plot hooks, but I also like to trample all over the railroads and the ability to hijack the story and take it in a totally different direction.
I think that's fair too. I think that's where we're at, basically.
Oh my god,
What on earth is that? That's my airbrush.
Yeah, airbrush. Why?
A very, very expensive airbrush. Metal. Better work.
She wants to be electrocuted.
She does. She really, really does. She's just like, I don't know. She's given up on life.
DM Venturous says, I'm in a campaign where the rogue has now after leveling up, has +10 persuasion.
Wow.
In a ring of obscuring. I've become really concerned for that. If that were the same player earns this suit, I would run. What? Oh. If that same player earns this suit, I would run. Sorry. I'm totally mashing everyone. I'm not drunk, I'm just Scottish. Yeah, Colby says sometimes it's really fun to turn the side quest into the main quest.
Yeah, I think so. Like I'm only just kind of loosely planning my adventure. I basically, one of the things that I really wanted to do, rather than having a huge overarching story, was to kind of think about what adventures do I want to go on. You know, it's so often I feel like I plan a big story and there are so many creatures and so many monsters and so many ideas and plots and plans that I really wish I could fit into a campaign, but by the time I get around to laying the groundwork and making the appropriate gravitas for what I want to achieve, my players have out-leveled it, so whatever it would be would hold no weight and no problem. So instead what I'm going for is, how do I make a series of interconnected, interesting stories, which you can do very easily through missions, and also having them come from various people who request help means that you get to choose what kind of caliber of person, and you can kind of change the adventure from session to session. So, for example, I really want to write very kind of detective-like stories, right? But if it turns out that my players aren't interested in searching for hints organically, and that just doesn't come naturally to them, and they don't enjoy that mission, or they, you know, skim the surface of it and they don't plumb any deeper, then that's just a couple of sessions that have been less than ideal, rather than a whole adventure that has gone down the toilet, you know? So I can go, right, okay, they either did or they did not enjoy the kind of detective style adventure. What I can do next is send them on another dungeon crawl, because I know they enjoy that. I can send someone who wants to get the wizard out of the castle, kind of thing. and in the meantime, I can try something else that I wanted to try out. So I really like the whole your adventurers for hire, your private investigators for hire type thing, because it means that I get to intersperse what the players are expecting with things that I really want to try out, and you can make it appropriate for just about any level, really, which is nice.
I've got a couple of new people that have joined us.
Oh, hello.
Alexis and Devin. Oh, yeah, hi Devin.
Nice to see you guys.
So if you want to just quickly recap
cool. So
what we're doing.
Yeah, no worries. So we are at the moment creating a magic item together. We are making a homebrew magic item called the quadropod pack, which essentially makes you like a little gnomish Dr. Octopus. And we are going to kind of come up with stats for it as I draw this thing. And then we're going to stick it on the on my website using the home brewery to make stats for it so that you can use it in your campaign if you so desire. And we're going to try our very best to not make this overpowered. I want this to be a thing that a gnome player would really want, but wouldn't necessarily, like, it wouldn't break the game, you know? I want this to feel like a kind of a gauntlet of ogre power, or, you know, a belt of giant strength or something like that, but not you know, not Black Razor, basically. I want this to feel like something really fun and interesting and game changing and things like that. I've really changed how I use magic items as well. Like that same questionnaire that I was talking about earlier on, where I discovered kind of more about what my players actually enjoy doing. One of the questions in it was, how much do you value magic items and what are you interested in when it comes to magic items? And I was really shocked to see not much. They're not that interested in magic items. I had been using magic items as a reward system because I had thought, right, that's one of the main interests for them, you know, collecting magic items, getting stronger outside of levels and all this kind of stuff. And no, they are very interested in character development, and character development comes from plotting their characters through character creation, basically. So, you know, if they want to play a rogue, they want to play a rogue. They don't want to play a rogue with all this superfluous extra stuff. So I was very surprised, but it's shaped how I make magic items now, because I try and work with my players to find out what I'm calling their character fantasy is. What do they want their character to be able to do, and how can I help them achieve that with okay, that's gone a little bit spiffy. Why has that done that? Let's change brushes. Are you doing that? There you go. Yeah, so I want to help them achieve what they want to do. So, for example, we have a little possum character in our campaign right now, and she's playing a very kind of cute possum character who is just wants to be a healer, basically. So my thinking is, how can I embellish or help this character to realize this fantasy of wanting to play a, you know, sentient walking talking possum? Well, maybe I can give them magic items that let them cast something like a miniature version of mirror image, where they get to carry all these baby versions of themselves on their back like a possum. Or maybe I can give them boots of spider climbing so that they can stick to walls and hang down from their tail like a possum might, or, you know, that kind of stuff, rather than trying to overload them with, you know, you're playing such and such a class, here's how you become really powerful at such and such a class, you know. So it's been really good. It really shaped how I want to make this campaign going forward, basically.
I think you're on the same wavelength with a lot of people in this chat. Copy says, I think a really good way to reward behaviour outside of magic items is gifting a home base and NPCs that work in there.
Yeah.
It's a nice mix of role playing and getting stuff that feels real. And in this game, you could give them a detective agency or something, which is kind of, we have the premises. Yeah. We have yet to do anything with it.
Yeah, they have a former tavern that's that the Society of Adventurers provided for them.
Being a secretary is so much fun in D&D.
Yeah.
Not even one that can fight.
Yeah, they have one of those as well. The kind of what do you call it? Like the maitre d', the kind of concierge type person who's arrived. But so far, one of the players has really badly offended her, and we'll see if she comes back. Basically, we'll see.
Dropkick Piper's new to the chat. Hello.
Nice to see you, Dropkick Piper.
When I DM, I introduce adventures like how Matt Colville once suggested. I put many times on the map rumours pointing to different adventures. What they don't deal with becomes a greater threat.
Yes, I've definitely had that before. So my players actually have this to deal with at some point. Don't worry, this is not too spoilery. I've talked about this. So we played this campaign, played in this campaign world years ago, and I mentioned at one point that there were rumours of an undead curse, an infectious zombie horde was appearing in what is essentially my version of fantasy Germany. Germanly. It was quite Germanly. And they didn't deal with it, and I kind of had like a tracker for each session that they didn't go and deal with that because they were more interested in doing something else, which is totally fine. But
oh no, I didn't realise that.
So if they look on the map now, they'll see that whole nation is basically a black charred husk. Because there is a massive rampant undead problem, and all the surrounding, it's actually shaped the lore because all of the kind of scientists, it was basically a land of artificers who have all been shaped and shifted. They've had to move to other countries, which has caused like an ongoing immigration problem in the nearby surrounding nations, because those mortals who have managed to survive getting out of the zombie apocalypse are now in the nearby nations, but they're all very shaken and jaded by the fact that they've had to survive a literal Walking Dead. So maybe some quite evil dudes who have some very, very ruthless ideas about dealing with the undead might emerge from those kind of areas. So yeah, definitely good to deal with players' lack of focus by rewarding it with greater stories later on.
Yeah, Joe's saying to me, I think we might have messed up with the zombies.
No, the zombies.
Yeah, but we can continue to ignore it and deal with it in a campaign 10 years from now.
Yeah, when you guys play through like an actual Walking Dead campaign and say, oh no, we're still playing in Albinoria, like this is just you just
all your fault.
Yeah.
Consequences.
Yeah.
I think that's something that you like to dish out is consequences for our actions, and it never truly sinks in until after we've done something horrendous. And have to deal with the gruesome details.
I like specifically some of my favourite games ever are things like the Fallout games, and Mass Effect and Dragon Age, things where you're given choices to make and there isn't a right choice. You have to make your best choice, but there is no right choice, because I don't think there are objectively right choices very often in real life. So I like to make difficult choices that you have to just do your best, because that's all anyone ever gets to do, and sometimes your very best is just okay. There's just not you can't foresee why it might not be the best choice for everybody, that kind of thing. Life is unfortunately hard, and you need to get through some of that with your friends, and hopefully that's what your fellow adventurers are.
Joe's asked me to ask everybody that's listening for ideas what we can do with our headquarters.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So we have a sort of falling apart sort of ramshackle tavern, ex-tavern, for a group that we've inherited as part of their employment, and none of us have yet came up with any good suggestions for what to do with it. So
I think the easiest thing to do would definitely be to create like a shop, that sells the magic items and things. Yvonne
It's
hates
like having a part-time job, having to do inventory.
yeah.
I don't even like shopping in game, let alone running a shop.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's mostly going to be passive, I think, because you're going to have things that you will set tasks, like you'll have employees that you can go like, right, I need you to do this by the time we're finished with this adventure, kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We asked if we have any druids. I don't think we do.
You go.
The classes secret from each other.
Yeah.
I think we've seen enough to know that there's no druids, right?
You've not actually seen enough to see if there's no druids or if there is any druids, actually. But yeah, basically, there could yet be a druid in the group. But essentially, I've asked the players to not reveal their classes so that they can roleplay just being what their characters are, and so they're not kind of defined by, oh right, you're a cleric, so you're our healer, you know, you're the warlock, so you've made a pact, you know, you're the rogue, so you're out for money, that kind of thing. Like, just so that they can play however they want to, and if they choose to reveal their class, they can do. But I kind of like the idea that classes don't necessarily super exist in the game. They're just different methods of existing and like how you choose to formulate combat, you know.
I feel like Joe knows everything about in the D&D books so well that from the moment we took our first action in combat, he was like druid, wizard, warlock.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I'm pretty obvious in what I've done.
Yeah, I think so. I think
no one's guessing what Bob is. Why not make it a training round to allow for training and other fun competitions?
That's actually what their first adventure is, weirdly. They're in the middle of a dungeon that some former adventurers have set up in the middle of their tavern, so that they can prove whether or not they're good adventurers and kind of learn the basic skills to survive before they go out into the wider world and deal with real threats that aren't just people in owlbear costumes but are instead actual owlbears.
Dropkick Piper says, when I ran the Dragon Heist adventure, my players similarly. Oh, that's that word.
That's the word. Yes.
Yeah, we keep forgetting. There's one word that I can't say, and it's
similarly.
That.
Yeah.
Inherited, and everyone's like, there's more than one word you can't say.
No.
Inherited a rundown tavern. One of my players was a drow, and he converted the cellar into an underdark speakeasy.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that.
So Bobbys came back and said, if you have any druids in your campaign, there's a lot you can do with plant growing stuff in the headquarters. That is cool.
That is cool. I feel like you're being slightly suspect there, but but yes, you can sell succulents, and they're very, very popular right now.
A lot of high voltage daylight lamps.
Yeah, UV lamps are not available in Albion.
Bolt has a good point. If no one knows you're a warlock, you're going to get a lot of weird looks. Warlocks have a lot of really, really, really weird abilities. I love them.
Do. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted as well. Like, people can speculate, and that's totally fine. But I wanted to I feel like the class fantasy of a warlock is keeping secrets. You know, you keep secrets, and you have great magical powers. And you don't know much about magic, but you have it, and you know, that kind of stuff. And I think that gets lost the second that you say, I'm a warlock, because it's like, oh, okay, right, so now we know you're going to be doing devious stuff, or you're, you know, I don't know. I think you lose something from the class the second that you have to describe what it is.
Oh man, I'm loving the details. Dropkick came back and said they hired an Umberhulk bouncer and a Myconid brewer amongst others.
That's such a good idea. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Where was it? There was a good one there. Yeah, you can make an archive that holds lots of information and do some form of espionage and sell to the highest bidder.
That's a really cool idea.
That would be so cool if we gathered all sorts of blackmaily information and then it has like a dark option to.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have a cartographer in the group now, so she could be making maps for you to sell of people's homes to rob and so on. Poor Myrtle.
Joe says that he's sus. Hey Myrtle.
She's having a little sulk. She's not very happy.
Yeah, he's has a suspicion of what each class each of us is, but are hoping that we may be going to mix it up with some multi-classes.
Interesting.
Maybe?
I know Joe is very into multi-classing. I don't know. Like I find multi-classing like needlessly complicated, but it can be useful if you want to create a certain type of character.
I haven't done it since my first character, and I just did it because I felt like I should.
Yeah.
I thought that's just generally how everybody was going to play it, and then
Yeah.
didn't really.
I only really like multi-classing if it either doesn't impact your character at all and you get to just do whatever your fantasy is for that character, or the complete opposite and it's intrinsic to their character. So like, you know, you can tell me who you trained to be a wizard under when you stopped being a fighter or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. I don't really like alright, I'm going to take one level in this and one level in that and then one level in this to get X, Y, and Z bonuses. You know, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't like multi-classing when it's meta. I like multi-classing when it's in-game. So, you know, maybe you get... my god, Metal is snoring away.
Oh my god. Colby says, I have a player who multi-classed 3 times for a total of 4 classes.
My god.
That's
No,
a lot to follow.
Nicely enough, like a lot of my players ask for permission for a lot of stuff.
Can you borrow this?
You might actually, you know what, I'm running out of, my battery's going quite low anyway. There's a charger in the bedroom. But a lot of my players are very kind in that they ask questions a lot about like, can I do this? Am I allowed to do that? Which, I mean, hopefully I'm not secretly a tyrant and I didn't know it, but like Joe has asked if, a previous character he was going to play, if he could multi-class into X, Y, and Z, and if that made sense. And it did. It totally did, because it allowed him to play the kind of class fantasy that he wanted to. And yeah, I thoroughly approved. I had another member of our group ask me if they could use their shield as like a tool to knock people back and stuff today. And it's like, dude, of course. Like, why not just try and go for it? But you know, it's also very respectful and very kind to be asked.
We're just a lovely group of people.
Yeah, you're a lovely group of people.
You've got you're getting chatted up in the comments.
Oh boy.
Dead Aussie Gamer says, flyby comment, your art is wonderful and you should feel ashamed for being so talented and good looking.
Oh, thank you. I don't know what channel you're actually watching, but I'll take it. Thank you very much. That's very kind. But yeah.
Yeah, Joe says, now you're okay, you're not a tyrant.
Okay, that's good. I think I one of the players that has just joined our group, because we had we recently looked for a few more players when we were starting the campaign afresh, and one of the players is someone who used to be my DM way back. He DM'd, and he's quite famous for being quite a brutal DM, not quite adversarial, but you know, he likes to make it hard on you. I don't think I've made a secret on the channel at all that I have anxiety problems. And when I used to work with this guy in like bars, and I very briefly had a cafe, which was just a bloody nightmare, total disaster. I was just such an anxious person. I couldn't say no to anyone at all for any reason. You know, so he was kind of expecting that kind of person to be who was DMing essentially, no, basically I floored his character in the first session, and he sent me a message afterwards saying, "You got that wrong." But he seems to be enjoying it, and I think like it's hard to stride the line between being a tough DM and being a very you know, kind of too gentle. I think I'm starting to reach the right mixture, basically. At least a mixture that I'm happy with and my players seem to enjoy. So challenge but not brutality and conflict without being adversarial. I don't like being on the other side of my players. I don't like being the bad guy to them. I like playing bad guys, and I like making interesting challenges, but I'll often kind of go like, oh damn, I didn't manage to hit you with that firebolt or whatever, but really I'm just like, cool, go and beat up the bad guy, I'm glad I didn't hit you. But certainly in the past I would have been even more nervous about trying to kill my players, player characters, not players. They can all live. How do you guys balance it? How do you deal with brutality? Do you try and be very tough? Are you successful? Or do you try and be gentle? Are you there for the story? Do you want everyone to just have a good time? Certainly what I try and do more of is just make sure everyone enjoys themselves. One of the greatest things that I've seen in a long time was a video about making sure that failures are moderated successes. So there's a lot of times that people want to put some kind of test in their campaign that's like, you make a skill check, and if you fail then you don't get to do the thing, which is great. That's kind of what they're for. But also as well, you can kind of write yourself into a corner where you believe that there should be a test that's a pass or fail, and then if someone fails, like, what do? You have to write a contingency for what happens there, and it spirals wildly out of control. But one of the things that you can do is not write yourself into a corner by allowing failed skill checks to allow people to succeed with an issue. So the example, I feel like this was Matt Coville, I'm not totally sure, but I think the example that he gave was like in the first Indiana Jones film. If Indiana Jones is trying to swing on a vine, he makes a dexterity check, an acrobatics check or something like that, athletics, I can't remember what you would call it, to cross the chasm on this vine. He fails his check, so he manages to cross to keep the story going. Otherwise that would just be Indy, he falls into a hole and he dies. But otherwise, credits. No one's going to go and see that film. But if you fail in this instance, some bad stuff happens. You just make it on the other side. You're kind of narrowly falling off the edge. Your heels are the only things that make contact with the other side of this pit that you're swinging across. And maybe some coins fall out of your pocket, or maybe you're swinging across and it turns out that it's a snake, not a vine that you've been crossing on, and you lose your cool, and everybody else in the group sees that you're actually a little bit cowardly with this one thing. So your secret is revealed, maybe, that kind of thing. There's different versions of failing tests, and that has made me a much better DM in terms of, like, my instinct is to put tests everywhere, but sometimes it can feel like you're just reading someone a bedtime story if you don't put tests in. But also sometimes failing tests where there should be some mean that the story ends. So you've got to think of different versions of failure, or different versions of success as well.
So quick aside, Colby's asking why you're not on Twitter anymore. So it was just to say that you deactivated that and you're moving to Instagram.
Yeah.
More than anything else. So if anyone has an Instagram account and wants to follow, just tag us somewhere and we'll follow back.
Yeah. So Twitter is not great for me at all. I never figured out quite how to use it for a start. And also, I don't know, obviously not everyone struggles in the same way that I do, but or may have the same medical or mental concerns that I do, but it affects them differently. I don't know. Either way, personally, my personal experience with Twitter is that it doesn't work very well for me. I'm very, very dyslexic, and I have a big problem with ADHD.
More of a visual person, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's Instagram. It works.
Yeah, basically. I really love receiving messages from people, but too many messages just stresses me the hell out. I get really nervous, I get really anxious, and I panic if I get too many things. Like if I have too many unread messages, it can send me into a spiral of depression and anxiety, because I'm like, oh, I'm not getting back to this person, then it just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting and getting worse. And that's just, unfortunately, me. That's just how I end up doing things. So it's, and Twitter's very hard to sift through as well. It's hard to look through, who said what, and who was the original sender of that message, what are they trying to get across. It's just, it's a lot of reading, and it's not great for me personally. So
Paul asks, how many characters have you killed? I'm guessing he means player characters. And I can only think of one that you killed.
What player character have I killed?
Didn't Baba Yaga kill?
Oh yeah, I killed the crap out of him. Yeah, I
feel like that
was
player
him.
Killed his own character. But
Yeah,
I'm not going to
I have I had a TPK. I suppose like we did like the.
Oh, Jonathan Foster's in the chat.
Oh, hi Jonathan, nice to see you.
We've had a TPK, haven't we?
We did the Tomb of Horrors, which wasn't exactly a TPK, but it was so exhausting that we just kind of went, right, we don't want to play those characters anymore. We're just done. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was not a fun dungeon.
I think I threw myself into a portal because I was so fed up with not knowing what to do.
Yeah. So yeah,
because I'm that annoying player, unfortunately.
You're not annoying.
Right, let's catch up on some comments.
But yeah, I don't think I've really killed many people. I think I've killed like one player character or something like that. I've knocked a lot of them unconscious.
Oh, that's nice. Joe says, just going to say that Josh is actually probably the best GM I've ever played with.
Aww.
I've ever played with 10 plus different.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's Joe.
York says, my campaign is a bit like Invincible, full of brightly clothed characters that get stained with lots of blood and body parts.
That's what I do too, Yorick. That's the way to play it.
Colby says, I try not to kill player characters when it isn't dramatic.
Yes, 100%.
But it's also actually hard to kill players in 5e.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think some of our characters may be proven it's not so difficult to kill.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah, it's... Well, you just be glad you got a healer this time.
Ace, this is the first time we've had a healer in the group. Maybe?
I think so. I think so.
Ace says, I always mention to my players that death is inevitable. That's a nice start to a game's night. Sit down, everybody. Death is inevitable. But they have many opportunities for amazing interactions, and they should consider their choices if they want to, as if they were there. That's a really good way of looking
definitely
at it.
a good call.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like I like to reward players for doing crazy reckless stuff, but I also want to make sure that players know that doing crazy reckless stuff is as deadly for their characters as it would be in real life. It's not, you can make something as cinematic and movie-like as you like, but they're not in a film. So if they jump off of a building to land on a helicopter, there's 10,001 different ways that they could die if they don't pass the right checks.
This is quite cool. Goop says, I think a good balance would be altering the DC based on how thorough the player's response is. A long speech rallying the troops is more likely to succeed than saying, I rally the troops.
Yes, definitely.
Joseph in the Horrors doesn't count. Yeah, I've wiped that. That's not canon.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Retcon. Kobe says, I almost got TPK'd last week as a player, and only because the DM decided not to follow through, we did survive, which may have actually ended the game anyways.
Alright.
Really unclear.
Damn, Colby, you have to let me know.
He says, actually, my beautiful Minotaur Luchador died. R.I.P.
Oh, no. That's such a good concept.
Okay, I don't get this reference, but I'll read it. Ace says, as fun as it is to, all caps, Leroy, there are consequences to actions.
Yes, definitely. So it's a World of Warcraft reference, and also where have you been? Because that was a very popular meme.
Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, Leroy Jenkins.
Right. Would you like a coffee? I'm just going to grab
you know what? I would love a coffee. Yes, please.
And I'll leave you with Yorick's comment. Did you like the idea I suggested on Instagram about the cast of the 80s D&D cartoon?
Oh yes, yeah.
Still being stuck there. and when they died, they got reincarnated to the next D&D edition.
Yes, I very much like that plan. I think that's a great idea. I would love if someone could buy the license or something like that to the old D&D cartoon and follow through exactly that idea, Yorick, that they've been there this whole time. This kind of like what would that even be like, you know? And then when the new editions come through, they can reincarnate as other things. It'd be absolutely fantastic. I still can't get over the fact I'd not really taken in until I saw like a video on it the other day that in the first episode they fight Tiamat. I just can't, like, it's a bunch of like it's like a kind of He-Man era cartoon with the kind of like, yeah, positivity, everyone can live, blah 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 blah, Tiamat, like devil queen of all chromatic dragons as your like I get you kind of have to have a kind of, in those days you had to have the Skeletor baddie, you know, the kind of like, I am the evil guy who's going to be secretly behind every single one of your problems because evil is something you can fight and not a systematic political issue. You know, that kind of rose-tinted idea. So they had to come up with some kind of vision, and I imagine that like they went into D&D headquarters and were like, who's the bad guy then in D&D? And they went, I don't know, Tiamat. And didn't think through the fact that they'd have to have this massive devil queen of all dragonkind as their villain for like every episode. Because also I bet as an animator that's got to be a nightmare to draw all those heads every single time, especially if you're trying to like save money on frames and stuff like that, you know, all those old cartoons where they had to like reuse assets in every episode, you know. Oh boy, love it. She's coming on quite nicely now, this little gnome artificer lady with all this kind of Magitech squiddy octopus gear. I'm liking the quadropod pack so far. Have a few little limbs going. Maybe it's one of those things that you could buy like a really expensive version, it would have even more limbs. So far what I'm thinking for it though is that it's very much like they count as like 4 prosthetic limbs from, is it Eberron or Ravnica or something like that has the magic item that's a prosthetic limb. So they can literally be used to like carry extra stuff, but they allow you to do things like make an attack as you would with a main action, but as your bonus action as well, because you can carry extra weapons. You know, if you're carrying an extra weapon in there, then you could make an extra attack kind of thing, which is really, really handy. They could give you reach. If you're using them to pick things up, they have like a certain level of strength. I'm thinking that's something like strength 18, 17, something like that. And they, oh, thank you very much. Cheers. And they have 2 minutes. Oh yeah. Yeah, the official. This was my D&D.
Right.
Oh boy, that's so good.
Devon has an idea for a player base. An old abandoned guild hall with helpful ghost as the party's first employee. The party could eventually upgrade the hall and could draw in quests. Draw in quests. DM Intro says, how many items are we going to see today? I think it's just one.
Just the one. Because I'm basically, while I'm writing my my Monster Mondays, I'm nearly finished researching all the Monster Mondays, like 9 Monster Mondays or something like that. It'll take a little while to draw them all and then whatever. So for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do this basically. Oh, okay. Apparently, according to Joe, we've dropped the stream.
Oh.
Oh. Interesting. Oh, right, okay. Thank you. Cheers for letting me know. I'll be back up. Oh, freezing. Error. YouTube not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Ooh.
Oh, we're back.
Are we? Hello. Are we properly back? Are you seeing sort of like live stuff?
I'm not now.
No.
Just try something. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello. So yes, we dropped. Unfortunately, we're in an old house, and our Wi-Fi sometimes does that. I'm in an office which is like between two very very thick walls.
It's in the middle of the house and
Yeah.
there's no windows. So.
Yeah, it has no windows. Just how I like it. Proper, proper pale kid otaku style. Like, just I'm gonna stay in my little chamber here. But yeah, it also means the Wi-Fi sometimes doesn't get through. So sorry about dropping there.
We've got a new commenter, Grant Train.
Hmm.
Hello, Grant.
Hmm.
I made a sci-fi tabletop RPG with power armor as the main theme, and one faction used biological power armor to go full Cthulhu.
That's very
It's
cool.
very up your street.
I love a good bit of Cthulhu.
And Apocalypse at Moth says, what comes to your mind when you hear the Council of Delirium?
I would say sort of enchanting wizards that, or maybe people connected to some kind of dream. Maybe Gith. I don't know. Gith, who as scions for sure. I like the idea of that.
Or some sort of psychedelic, sort of poisonous madness-inducing sort of druid cult.
Oh yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah. Circle of Dreams druids, maybe. That's a nice idea. Maybe people who a long time ago kind of tried to tap into, I can't remember if it's the ethereal plane or something like that, the one that's connected to dreams, and have enriched their lives by being able to like lucid dream and things like that, but they keep bringing things from their dreams back, that kind of thing. Society sounds very much like a kind of bad guys kind of thing. But I like the idea, the Delirium Society. Sounds very Victorian. I like it. I like a Victorian anything. Poor little Myrtle snoring away there. I don't know if you can hear her. She's had a bit of trouble recently. She's got such massive ears, and it's been so sunny recently that in the most first world dog problem ever, she's got sunburnt massive ears. So she keeps scratching them, and we've had to put basically the cone of shame on her, but we have a slightly more comfortable cone of shame that looks like one of those kind of flight pillows that you get. So she's wearing the executive flight pillow, but it just means that her snoring is so much worse. So it's pretty hilarious, but it's for her own good. So if you do hear snoring, I'm not narcoleptic and drifting off in my own stream. It's just Myrtle snoring away in her little flight pillow. Bless her.
Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll back a wee bit to see if we've missed anything. There was a lot of stuff that we missed while we were
really?
down.
Oh, crumbs.
I guess if anyone wants to post it again, sorry.
Yeah.
It's just easier than trying to scroll through that.
That's all good.
It's like
Thank you for sticking with us, by the way, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That's very kind. What are your plans for the weekend in the meantime? Are you going to do some mini painting like me? Are you going to be playing any computer games or anything like that? Have you got any campaigns?
Colby's in, when people look at the bottom left octopus arm, does anyone else see a bunch of floating hams?
Yes, they are. That is kind of what I was thinking as well. So yeah, I'm into it. It's little electro ham arms.
Joe's asking, Apocalyptic Moth, is your name China Mellyville reference? He says, no, what is that? And then he says, I just like moths. I'm terrified of moths, but good for you.
They do fly quite erratically. I don't think I've ever, like, every single encounter I have with a moth ends up with them like just landing in my hair, which is not cool.
Yeah, my brother used to catch them and throw them in my face when I was younger, so that's where my trauma comes from.
Yeah, at least it's not a phobia. That's a legit fear. Oh dear, Myrtle. It's a tough life, pal. Okay. I think I'm doing quite well for time now. It's been a bit of a sketchy illustration so far, but I think...
you're catching up quite.
Yeah.
When you started, I thought, oh my god, we're going to be streaming all night.
Yeah, no worries. Learned my lesson that last time when we drew Len, my super edgy first proper character, and I was so tired by the end of it. So I am trying to get through these slightly quicker than I would like a Monster Monday, which is why it's quite a lot more sketchy. But it's still looking good. It's got the essence of what my drawings usually have. I'm pleased.
Jonathan says that he had said you better put that coffee in a pint.
A pint of coffee. My goodness. Yeah, I could deal with that, to be honest.
Grant says I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4 of late.
Nice.
And there's a big mod in development set in London.
Ooh, really?
It looks really cool.
That's awesome. I would play the absolute hell out of that. London Fallout. Oh my god, could you imagine? That'd be so cool.
Let us know what you're studying, It's studying for finals and finding time to make D&D stuff.
Nice one. Good on you.
Dropkick Piper has a campaign scheduled for tonight.
Hope it goes well.
One of his rare chances to sit in the player's seat.
Oh,
that's great.
That's really awesome. Good for you.
Colby is starting a new character / new campaign this weekend.
Nice one. What kind of setting are you going for, Colby?
A mom revenant who died protecting her baby, and instead of vengeance fueling her undeath, it's just drunk.
Ooh.
The sheer will of motherhood. That sounds good.
That's pretty cute.
Talking of next characters, we've just started watching Schitt's Creek.
Oh my god,
which is
yeah.
something we've never seen before, and my next character is definitely Moira.
Yeah,
I don't know what, like maybe a warlock.
Such a madam. I don't know, but you would rock that so hard. Your posh person voice is so good.
Grant has a weekend exam.
Oh, that's not fun at all. Why on earth would someone...
Moving.
That's the worst sentence I think I've ever heard. Like,
Yeah,
who
so
invents
sad.
weekend exams?
Weekend exam and moving to Dundee.
Oh, okay,
Good
that's...
move.
Yeah, that's
Hope
good.
that all goes as smooth as it can.
Yeah. Have a good time.
Goop is doing some prep work for the Salt Marsh game.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So I think I'll play a bit of a Wizard of Legend.
Nice one.
He's asking what minis you're painting.
So I am painting. I'm pretty obsessed with. I'm getting through my grey pile of shame, basically. All the miniatures that I have.
Is that your term?
No, that's the general term, the pile of shame. My grey pile of shame in the basement. And I am, again, I've kind of set my whole campaign right now in my steampunk Victorian London, so I'm doing some kind of steampunky human miniatures for when we inevitably end up, hopefully, getting to meet up and play again. So I've got humans to do from the Legends of Signum series. They're ever so slightly too big, but only by a tiny little bit. And they are just such beautiful, expressive sculpts. I would highly recommend them. There've been a few elves. I painted an elf the other day, but I'm going to be painting some humans. And I tell you what, I really, when I first started doing miniature painting videos way back, I do like one every year or something like that. I only managed to get enough time to do like one a year. I was such a different miniature painter then than I am now, because I really enjoy taking my time with minis, but I also want to have minis to play with. I was such a perfectionist that I kind of ended up getting into this kind of mini paralysis and not actually doing any of my hobbies. And recently I learned about zenithal highlighting, which is a process of making your miniatures light on the top and dark on the bottom in a kind of gradient, and speed painting. And I've been having so much fun not doing my absolute best, but doing a good job, like not perfect but good, and kind of embracing that sometimes the perfect is the enemy of the good, and just making sure that I have miniatures that I can use the rest of my whole life, that are fun to look at and I can be proud of, and then I can take that extra time and really go nuts on the miniatures I'm obsessed with, like my big dragons I need to paint and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been really liberating, and it's made the hobby a lot more fun again. So yeah, I've been enjoying speed painting. They're not the best paints that I could do, and I'm totally happy with that. I really thought I wouldn't be. I never thought I'd give up on like trying to make this perfect quality thing, but I'm so much happier having miniatures that I can use than having perfect miniatures that, having like 3 perfect miniatures. So I'm really getting through them, and I'm hoping this weekend I can make a few of them. Like I've made a bunch of them, so they're all useful, but I might be able to paint a few of them, and we can have some miniatures to use in our actual games. So yeah, very, very excited about that, and maybe I'll make a video about that at some point. Maybe that'll be my next thing, is just do what you can and have fun and spend time on the things that you want to spend time on, and don't dally around with things that aren't that important to you, I guess.
Ace has came back because I asked what they were studying, and physiology, gross anatomy, metabolism, chiropractic adjustments, and a few others in there. So that all sounds really complex, so good luck with your studying for that. Let me see. Colby rolled insanely well for his apocalyptic mum character, who he described as like, what if Lily Potter was a badass?
Nice, that's a cool idea.
And his stats, once they sort of took the human bumps to the stats, is 18, 18, 18,
Whoa.
16 and 12.
What? And your DM is cool with this?
Yeah, so that's pretty mad.
That's mental. I've never heard of anyone rolling stats like that. That's really good for you.
My goodness. Apocalyptic Mom says, what do you think of a person building themselves a mechanical shell full of preserved organs to trap their soul inside so that they can be immortal? I hope this is in game we're talking about.
I think that sounds like a good campaign.
They could see, hear, taste, eat and breathe.
Ooh.
But they're trapped in a shell?
Yeah, so like all their organs kind of do the same functions, but they're just like...
Right. Like a robot. I was thinking like a tortoise shell just packed with okay, that makes more sense.
I like that version. Can we...
What's it gonna do? Just like be stuck in that shell? Okay.
Oh, that's really cute. I love it. But yes, I really like that idea, and it's something... again, this is one of the downsides of having my wife sitting right next to me, is like, I want to tell you guys what I've got planned, but I can't tell you guys what
Joe's in here as well.
Yeah.
Doing any spoilers.
Yeah. But yes, mechanical stuff like that is something that I could potentially see myself doing something along the lines of.
Dropkick Piper says that's what they call tabletop standard. If the paint looks good at distance, then it's good enough for them.
Exactly. I've been enjoying doing tabletop standard in that case. It's really nice. It's very relaxing, and I can always come back and do more in detail if I want to, which is very liberating.
He said he even rolled with a handicap, no rerolls. That is some insane rolling.
That's mental. That's so good. Like,
the best stats they've ever
just
rolled. Yeah, I would think
protect
so.
the hell out of that
4
character.
18s.
But yeah, I've never heard of that. You have to just really make sure that character survives.
Yeah. And if there's no rerolls, I'm like really concerned. Is it Joe that usually rolls super bad now? Somebody always... Is it
Rory usually rolls quite badly.
Quite awful. I'm usually quite lucky with my character rolls.
Yeah, the secret reason why I always want to be the DM is because I roll terribly. So if I roll up characters, they have to be useless. There's no 2 ways around it. Um, yeah.
Yep. Grant says that he was really getting into sculpting before all of his stuff had to be packed away.
Mm.
And he says, I was working on those wee cheap nasty animal toys and made a pygmy pack elephant.
Oh.
The garden gnome type lad walking beside her.
What? That's awesome.
Oh, Kobe's working on a podcast.
Oh,
So.
that's cool.
Oh wait.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know,
Yeah. It's called. I was like, had a real disconnect there between what your name is and who you are. It's like, oh yeah, I've been on that.
oh right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm being so
Sorry,
dumb.
Colby.
Sorry, Colby. My bad. It's the Crit Fails podcast, which I would highly recommend. They're very, very good people. And they talk about fun stuff too, including the Knee Forged, which are Knee Forged. They have like a little segment where they find really, really, we'll say strange homebrews from across the internet for D&D, and one of them was a race of creatures called the Knee Forged, which were in no way forged. Like they are
like KNEE, like
yeah. They're pigeon creatures with tiny regular sized pigeon bodies, but huge like Goliath sized legs, and they value the size of people's knees as like their most important trait, and they run really fast. And it's very peculiar. It's an odd thing for someone to want to build, I'll be honest.
Devin would like your opinion on a character they're making.
By all means, please.
A grave cleric with a Dia de los Muertos theme.
Ah.
He was a cleric in life and was revived as a skeleton to continue his god's work after death.
That sounds very interesting. I like the sound of that. I like the whole Day of the Dead mask kind of. Would you call it face paint or is it mask? I don't know. But either way, I really like the aesthetic of that very, very much. So yeah, very cool choice.
Rory's asking a really concerning question. Given that I don't know what the context of this is. Have you worked on the Chum Scab stats yet?
Oh, that was the Apocalypse sword, the Sword of War, I think it was. Remember that? Yeah. Don't be concerned. Chum Scab was a thing. You were actually here for that.
Yeah, I know what my memory is like.
That's true.
Chum Scab.
Yeah, Chum Scab.
Yeah,
someone called it Chum Scab in the comments, and that just really stuck. So
yeah, we'll need to get that going. Actually.
Yeah, I need to put up the
Kobe
stats.
says, "Yeah, where's our Chum Scab?"
Yeah, good old Chum Scab. New viewers, please don't leave.
Joe says it's Rory and James that roll awfully, but personally you couldn't play that stat array that Colby rolled because you'd feel too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you started level 1 like that, it's like, where do you go?
Yeah, I guess.
From there.
I guess, yeah.
But then
depends what the narrative of the campaign is. If you're supposed to be like really good at stuff, I
also
guess.
like if you kind of role played that like you're the sort of superhuman character compared to your companions, and that kind of totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's
so sometimes you kind of envision your character being really powerful and doing all these things, and then you roll ridiculously crap.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like,
yeah, but bit of a shame when that's happened sometimes.
Character says, I have a proper question. Are you dissing the other questions?
Yeah, they're not.
How do you choose your colour schemes?
I choose my colour schemes by going online, and I don't know much about colour theory, so I find colour palettes that I find appealing, and as long as they're bright and coherent with one another,
and feature pink and teal.
Yeah, I like a good bit of pink and teal, that kind of thing. Then I'm happy, basically. I really, really hate, like absolutely fervently despise with a passion colour schemes that are too grey and dark and boring. I just like what's the point? You know, I don't like real world kind of colours on my characters too much. I like colour palettes that work aesthetically, that you know you would pick if you were painting something, you know. So I like to make vibrant things because it's a fantasy world, essentially.
Kobe says that if Ronnie blocks Chumscab out of mine. I really have. I have no idea. Because Grant said it was him that named it Chumscab.
Oh, right.
I'm just trying to where.
Do you not? I didn't remember that. It was because I was making like like the whole blade was made out of meat. And he was like, I feel like this would be called Chumscab or something like that, and it just really stuck.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that name, Grant.
Yeah. Thanks for all of our collective nightmares.
Apocalyptic Moth is talking about the shell. It's a concept again. I had a woman who was dying. She built a husk out of metal. She filled it with the organs from people she had assassinated.
Oh my god.
She trapped her soul to an object. Her mechanical helper. Oh, hang on, wait, your feeds went weird.
Oh really? What's happened?
Did you just open your...
Like ages ago I did.
Oh. How long ago?
Like
a minute ago or something?
No, like half an hour ago.
Oh.
Like when Joe came on and said that we'd gone.
Wait a minute, it's not got colour in the...
Yeah. Just refresh your thing, maybe?
Sorry guys. Let's see.
Let me see how it can.
See if it's just my phone.
Oh no, it seems to be showing
Okay.
live stuff here. So it could just be your phone, hopefully. Ah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
It's like it was just my phone, sorry.
Cool.
Yeah, Kobe says I'm not too worried about being uber strong because really strong because their character's meant to be uber deadly.
Oh, okay.
And is constantly carrying around their baby and a baby Bjorn.
Oh.
I actually used to work for a baby carrier company, and it was our product was featured in a how to survive the apocalypse feature as one of the key items. So it's a good call.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Joe says to Devin, I would totally have him slowly carve the designs in his own skull as mementos for the people he heals or saves, or the action he performs to his god.
Are you cool, Joe? Are you alright?
That's pretty dark as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Ace asks, what are your thoughts on a magic item that is a deck of cards that deals status effects and functions as a throwing weapon? Some cards can deal damage, like an ace, but single target cards deal and it's been cut off. Whereas similar to Gambit. There's a wee bit missing there, I think, but
okay.
Yeah, kind of Gambit-ish.
Yeah. I like the sound of Gambit adjacent style cards. That sounds like a fun idea. Definitely. Oh, that's all. So much.
Crafty's saying you should try painting with gradient maps. I think you tried that, but you quite like a flatter look to your...
Yeah, I'm not going for realism. I like to do this kind of thing. It's the kind of the art that I enjoy as well. Has these kind of like flat colours.
Yeah, because I think your style is about as much as what you exclude from something as what you include.
Yeah.
Could I run my world's Wendigos by you real quick?
Yeah, please. Fire away. We've got nothing but time.
I love that dog snore ASMR.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, it doesn't put us to sleep at night when she's snoring on her bed, though.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to... I was up until like 4 last night. Mostly, like, the conflict as well is so frustrating because it's like I love her so much, but she's such a loud snorer. So it's like I want to be angry at you. No, I can be angry at you. No, just messing.
Oh, just waiting on...
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. In the meantime, well, how would you guys stat up these things? If they're tools that you can walk on and so on. What would you do for these? I feel like, what kind of strength stat would you give a character who's wielding them? Would you make them do unarmed damage? If you punk someone with them, what kind of things would you go for?
My goodness, there's quite a delay on this because that's Joe just saying that the feed looks good to him.
Oh, okay.
I feel like a mega delay, guys.
Just got a bit of lag, I guess.
Oh, I've got another new commenter. Randomizer says, "I miss your videos, glad to see you streaming."
Oh, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to making some more stuff for you. Got some good monsters that I've just finished researching.
Grant says, "I made a magic system / items with tarot card. Each card has a daily ability and a once only ability that destroys the card." That's cool.
Oh, that's nice.
3 cards can be used in poker hands for bonus effects.
Nice.
Cool.
Excellent call. Seems like a lot of fun and something that we could definitely include in a campaign. I love a good set of cards in a campaign.
Goop says, "So in my world, divide them into greater and lesser wendigos. Greater wendigos are large fiends, brackets devils, and that have modified a hunter's mark.
Oh, okay.
Lesser wendigos are medium monstrosities that started as humanoids, but they turn after making eye contact with greater wendigos."
Oh, okay. That sounds pretty fun.
Devon says, "Definitely give them a climb speed, also an ability to partly absorb lightning damage to charge them would be cool." Yeah,
that's a very cool idea. Yeah, very what's it called? The Flesh Golem kind of has that thing as well, where you kind of Frankenstein style charge them. I like the idea of putting some Tesla in there. So yeah, definitely.
Did it freeze for anyone else? It froze for me a second ago, so hopefully we're... Oh no, not for Colby. Let's just check. Are we live? Okay. It looks like it might just have been Colby.
Yeah.
Matlin says, quadropods, increased movement speed on foot, climbing, etc. Strength set to giant level-ish, and possibly boost skill.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe you could get a couple of different kinds. Like if you have ones that are for very, very neat fine detail work, they could give you like a sleight of hand bonus or something.
This is cool. I really like the idea of having to prove that you can wield them in a mental fight, and if you fail, there's a chance that arms won't do what you want. Oh,
that's a cool idea. Yeah. Okay, so maybe they should have a personality. I think you've won me over there.
Apocalyptic Moth asks, which miniature paints would you recommend? I started with Army Painter, but I bought some Citadel paints to paint up my Age of Sigmar army.
Okay, so Citadel paints are very good, but they are very, very expensive, as I'm sure you know. And I'm not a huge fan of how their paint is stored, because they're in little pots. And I'm a big fan of droppers. You know, you can just drop however much you need to use, so you don't waste too much or anything like that. Personally, my favourite, whether or not they are the best, I don't know, but my favourite kind are that little symbol there. It's a little Spanish company.
Oh.
Vallejo.
we'll get a smooth stream.
Yeah. Yeah, if we did it in the kitchen, it would probably work quite well, but I just...
It was patchy in there as well, but
Yeah.
remember? Oh, we're back.
Hey!
Oh, you missed all that swearing and
Oh,
cussing
yeah.
Josh
All
just
the-
did.
All the vile, terrible,
terrible
off-brand
stuff.
things that I was doing that no one ever gets to see. That all happened there.
Colby says, you could put some sort of weird animal in the backpack section of the item, like a psychic electric eel or a telekinetic firefly swarm, and those things could have personality to fight with.
Oh, that's a nice idea. Also terrifying.
I feel like this is like definitely the group of people to be running any future campaign plots.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Privately without members of the group around, because
They-
there's some
they
really
have such good
badass
ideas.
there.
Yeah, I
You
love
should
it.
have like a world building salon.
Yeah. i.e. a place for me to steal all of their ideas.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because some of these ideas
That's so
people are
good.
coming up with, I totally want in game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my knees. I went to sleep.
Pal, you're right. I'll finish up soon and then can put these stats and stuff online and
I don't want a cup of tea.
do you leave it through in the living room?
I don't know. I'm sure it's in
Hello, peculiar.
Yeah, Kobe says that the animals in the backpack is if you don't want to use the ghost dad again.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was too much trauma for one lifetime.
Oh.
Are we still here?
And Kobe's in the Discord as well.
Okay.
If you ever want to chat.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely.
Ace is
Probably.
now hearing the snores. Yeah,
Yeah. She's
they're quite amazing.
quite cheeky.
Ace also said, I would not say steal, I'd call it enrichment of gameplay for all.
I like the way you think, but yeah, we'll definitely make the little world building salon a part of the.
You got an invite back to the Colby's podcast.
Oh, thank you, Colby.
You could always come back to the podcast and we'll do 3 campaign of mystery sections in a row.
Hell yeah.
While you pitch us ideas for your setting. That's cool.
Yeah, dude, I'm well up for that as always. Oof, that's a lot of autoplay.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely don't need that. Let's go for a bit of magical blur. Yeah. Should be a bit brighter. You're taking a photo of little Matty.
Yeah. I'm going to put a picture of Myrtle and her snoring device up on
Oh,
Instagram if anyone wants to have a look.
poor Matty. I mean, yeah, do make fun of Myrtle because that's for shame, Myrtle. There you go. Oh no, I put that in the line work layer. No.
What?
Let's pull that lightning in the line work layer so it's now all over that black stuff, which I didn't want to have happen.
Oh, it doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, I just wanted it kind of peering through the little ham chunks rather than.
I mean, you could mask it all off, but you need to learn to live with that imperfection.
Oh man, that's such a pain in the butt. Well, they're very evil. Alright, they're just going to be very evil things. Nuts. That's really depressing. I could Control-Z that whole thing, but I can't be bothered. So. Well, guys, we're just going to have a lot of lightning on these Dr. Octopus arms, sadly. I think that's in that level of defeat. I think that's where we should leave it.
I think it's an overall win tonight.
Yeah, it'll work. I'll write up some stats and stop there because putting things.
He says it still looks awesome. There you go.
Thank you.
Well, if you hadn't said it, no one would have noticed.
Okay. That's what we'll go for. Thank you very much.
But yeah, if you want to check out what Myrtle looks like, well, she's snoring because her eyes are wide open the entire time she does that. You can check it out on Instagram.
Yeah. So yes, that's the quadropod pack. And I'm going to get over the fact that that's not perfect because sometimes perfect is the enemy of the good, and that's fine. It's fine. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to do anything to it because that's fine. And I'm going to write up stats for you guys if you want to have a little gnomish mechanical backpack thing that allows you to grip onto 4 extra things or two extra big things, or walk around on it, or spider climb and stuff like that. Because that seems like a lot of fun. And I'll stick that on my website, but I will post on the YouTube community section and Instagram and stuff like that when that goes up. So you guys can use that if you want to. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And as I say, while I'm still working on researching and drawing and stuff like that, all the Monster Mondays before I release them, I'm going to do a few more of this kind of thing. So let me know in the comments section or on Instagram or whatever what other things you'd like to see, whether you'd like to do some more drawing videos or more magic item workshops, maybe ones where we kind of collaborate a bit more because I took charge of this one a bit, but otherwise if you just want to see more homebrew stuff that I've done or go through existing actual magic items, then we can go through those instead, just whatever you guys kind of want to see while I'm working on Monster Mondays for you all. But yeah, in the meantime, have a wonderful weekend, enjoy your projects and hobbies and research and revision for your exams and things like that, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me.